Right, the name Enzo Maresca has been linked with the Celtic job in recent weeks. He's a bit of an unknown figure in general. You may know that he's currently working with Manchester City's elite development squad. You may know that he had a pretty decent playing career. But what else do we know about Enzo Maresca? And is he a genuine candidate to succeed Neil Lennon as Celtic's next permanent manager? Well, we're going to discuss Enzo Maresca in this video. You can probably tell that from the headline, and I'm not going to mess about too much today as there's a hell of a lot to get through. Remember to subscribe to the channel, by the way, guys and girls, if you've not done it yet. Pause it now, do it, that'd be appreciated. Thank you. Okay, playing career, and I'm not going to spend too much time in this because I don't feel it's quite as relevant as the other stuff. I mean, who can remember Brendan Rodgers as a player, for example? Right, Enzo Maresca, he was capped at virtually every youth level for Italy, never got a full international cap. For an Italian energetic midfielder, he started his professional career at the real luxurious, outlandish outpost of West Bromwich Albion. That's where he started his career, but he soon switched the black and white stripes of the Baggies for a slightly more illustrious name in Juventus. He left West Brom for just over £4 million, which at the time was a record sale as far as they were concerned. Bit of a bit part player over the next 4 years at Juventus. He then went on to play for a couple of other Italian teams, including Fiorentina, before really making his name as a player with Sevilla. If you've played for Sevilla in the 21st century, there's probably a fair chance that you've been part of a UEFA Cup or a Europa League success. Now, Maresca won 2 UEFA Cups in 2 seasons with Sevilla, the second of them coming, interestingly enough, at Hampden Park. So, winning a trophy at the National Stadium, tick. He also played for Olympiacos and Malaga after that, as well as a number of other Italian clubs where he finished his career. Right, that's his playing career done. He got his UEFA Pro licence at the Italian managerial coaching school Coverciano. You've probably heard of it. It's where the likes of Max Allegri and Maurizio Sarri have come through in recent years. It's kind of like their Largs or their Clairefontaine, that kind of idea. So while he was getting those coaching qualifications, he was also assistant manager of Serie B side Ascoli. He then went back to his former side Sevilla to become their assistant manager. In his first season, they reached the Champions League quarter-finals. He then moved to be a technical coach at Sevilla. I've been trying to find out more information as to why that move happened and why it was so short-lived. I've not been able to find anything on the internet. The trail goes cold, as they would say. He then moved to England, London to be specific, with West Ham, where he was assistant manager again to Manuel Pellegrini, a guy he'd worked under in his time playing for Malaga. Now, he was with the Hammers for a total of 18 months working under Pellegrini. I wanted to pick out one game in particular from his time at the club that probably tells us more about Maresca than any other match. The Guardian wrote a really interesting article in December 2019 that credited Maresca with West Ham's stunning 1-0 win over Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. West Ham were struggling badly at this stage. There was huge pressure on Pellegrini, who obviously eventually lost his job with David Moyes coming in. The rest is history. But this win at Stamford Bridge, a stunning victory, was attributed to Enzo Maresca, the assistant manager. He apparently devised a plan to beat Chelsea, who had a number of strong midfield players, central players. He came up with a plan of pushing Chelsea to the wings, and it worked splendidly. He took charge of training in the lead up to the victory over Chelsea. He was, to all intents and purposes, the manager that day, although Pellegrini did get most of the credit until this Guardian piece came out. The Guardian piece also says that Maresca at the time was a potential candidate to replace Pellegrini, whose coat was on a sugary peg, let's just say. He was respected by the players, liked by the players, and the players really, really enjoyed his coaching sessions. So I think it's interesting that he's a good coach, first of all. He's liked or he was liked around the club, but most notably that he was able to look at Chelsea, exploit their weaknesses and come up with a bit of a David against Goliath result for West Ham at Stamford Bridge. So that's what he's like when he is an underdog. What about when he is the biggest team with the most resources in the league, as he would be if he came to Celtic? Well, we've actually got good evidence of that because, as I said earlier on in the video, he is currently the manager of Manchester City's elite development squad. That's just a fancy name for their B team, their top youth team, whatever you want to call it. They play in the Premier League 2 and they are pretty clear at the top of that table. They've got 34 points from 16 games, which is a pretty good return, but they actually started the season quite slowly when Maresca came in late August, although their last 9 games, they have won 7 of them and drawn the other 2. In that time, they have scored 30 goals and conceded just 9. Couple of notable results just looking at that run was a 7-2 win against Liverpool and a 6-1 win against Leicester City, both away from home. So it's clear that his teams like to attack, like to score goals. I'm reluctant to read too much into youth football, which is what it is, because I think there's just so many factors, what youth academies are better, the resources the teams put into their youth academies. It's not easy to distinguish how good a manager Maresca is simply from looking at that. But what I would point out is that last season in the Premier League 2, Manchester City finished 8th. So Maresca has taken them from finishing 8th to being well clear at the top of the Premier League 2. After joining Manchester City, he gave some really interesting quotes that gave a bit of an insight into how he operates as a manager. He was speaking to the Manchester Evening News and Maresca said, "The first day I met the team, I told them I didn't want any excuse about their age. They are 17, 18, but they are good players and we can challenge teams with a higher average age. I think this isn't a problem. We know at this stage 2 years difference is enough, but I don't want any excuses. We can compete against everyone." Now, it's a well-known thing in football that the minute you give your team an excuse, you have a reason not to succeed, not to win matches, not to reach your overall goal. We had far too many excuses this season. Every press conference you listened to Neil Lennon, he was either making an excuse for his players or, more commonly, himself, his own failings. Enzo Maresca will not make excuses, judging by that wee comment. The Manchester City squad that he took over was younger than most of the teams in that league, judging from those comments, but he doesn't think that's an excuse at all. He thinks it's actually more reason for them to work harder to be the best. So quite simply, I am quite bowled over by this guy and what he's had to say and what he's achieved so far. Right, I'll be honest, and there are still big question marks over the fact that he's never managed any team at senior level. But everyone's got to start somewhere, right? Every manager you look at today, Guardiola, Klopp, they had to start somewhere. And at just 41 years old, he's got a good amount of experience for that age. He's been on the touchline for a number of big clubs, Sevilla in the Champions League, West Ham in the Premier League. He had a really good career playing for the likes of Juventus, winning a league title with them, winning 2 UEFA Cups with Sevilla. So he has plenty of experience of major football. I don't think managing a game in the Scottish Premiership, with all due respect, would be a huge issue for him. Champions League could be different, but let's face it, the chances of Celtic being able to appoint a manager who has Champions League experience are probably pretty minimal, if we're honest. I know he's not the big name that many of you watching this video will want, and some of you may turn your nose up at a guy who's never managed a senior match other than that one with West Ham when he beat Chelsea. But I do think that this guy has shown already in his short coaching career that he is going to go pretty far. He gets good reviews wherever he goes. He's shown experience of being tactically astute, performing well in the training ground, being liked with players, and being able to dominate with a larger budget and better playing squad at Manchester City. I know it's different pressure. There's not the same amount of pressure at Manchester City's B team as there is or would be at Celtic, but I think this guy ticks a lot of boxes. Would he be up for coming to Celtic? I'd like to think so. Surely he's looking for an opportunity in the senior game, and managing Celtic is still a massive opportunity for someone like that. Quite simply, to conclude on this pretty lengthy video, I am firmly on the Enzo Maresca bus.